From Chicago, welcome to 3Degrees Discussions. I'm your host, Mike Vasquez.
That's comforting because that means we're getting to a higher level of maturation where we're going to see that expansion of applications continue to evolve and get into more areas that before may have been just too scary to go to.
That was Dekker. Carl is the president of Met-l-flo, a 3D printing service bureau in Illinois. In addition to his day job, Carl is the president of the Additive Manufacturing Users Group. We talk about challenges in leading through the COVID pandemic, and as one of the distinguished innovators in the industry, he shares his perspectives on the evolution of the technology and how standardization is playing a key role in the progress of 3D printing. So Carl, welcome to the show. For our audience, do you want to just give a little background on, maybe just start with Met-l-flo and then we'll get into some of the other experience that you have in the industry?
Sure. I'd love to, Mike. Again, thanks for having me. I think this is really cool that you're pulling this all together. A little bit of background on Met-l-flo is Met-l-flo is consultants to the metal forging industry. Actually started by my father, didn't have anything to do with the stuff that I'm doing or anything now. I was working for an import-export company, bringing in vacuum casting technologies and helping expand that right at the inception of additive manufacturing, rapid prototyping at that time, because it was 3D Systems' first machines. So started working with places like Baxter, Microcut, and GM, some of the places, Abbott Laboratories, that had equipment. Basically, they were going to cancel because they were just on an initial pilot program. So here I find myself unemployed in a growing industry without really anybody there to find a spot to land at. So I ended up deciding to build my own equipment. Didn't know what was going to come of the equipment at the import-export operation. Wound up designing it, building it, getting that set, getting it started, and as opposed to a lot of conventional operations, starting under a bank-funded or venture capitalist or something, I guess at that point, joining Met-l-flo Incorporated was the venture capitalist, if you will. Built the equipment, started things up. Continued growing there, and was just a different business model than a consultancy. So decided to separate from my father mid-90s. At that point, we'd already gotten a lot of name recognition with the clients we were working with. Wasn't that we were out there marketing, because it wasn't really a huge market. So the name didn't really matter as much, so we kept the Met-l-flo name, kept all the vendor accounts and things like that with it. Continued growing as we saw direct digital manufacturing, the term at that time, starting to become a viable future for rapid prototyping. We'd gone in, we'd add a number of different secondary technologies and processes and things to facilitate the low volume applications, which we decided to continue doing, because at the end of the day, it's really about what are the material properties you're going to have in the end product, and will that meet the expected life of the device or the application. So we continued going along the lines of building more additive technologies into it, adding additional processes and systems. But that kind of got me into some of the areas with the Rapid Prototyping Association. At that point, got onto the board, started helping, trying to drive and get some recognition through the SME and through larger forums to promote what was feasible and what was actually viable information, to make sure that it wasn't misleading, potentially deceptive, or applications that really couldn't be fulfilled. And just wanted to try and keep things straight, because as the technology advances with successful applications, we we start to see more viability for it to grow versus what happened to stereolithography in the very early days, the early 90s. There were a number of people who bought the pieces. They found out that they break. They're fragile. They're really delicate parts that took a long time to build, and even though it was really cool to watch the laser dance around, still was an expensive way to get some concepts. A lot of people still continued that paradigm in the late 90s that SLAs were fragile and bad, and they got burned on them because somebody misrepresented it. So I wanted to try and help make sure that that didn't happen. The RPA got combined into the SMEs, transitioned to communities. We fought at that time, the board, to get the RTAM, or the Rapid Technologies Additive Manufacturing Community, started. Managed to get that passed, and it continued into what's now the Additive Manufacturing Community. So also saw a lot of opportunity to help with the Additive Manufacturing Users Group because it was a great organization and was doing a lot to help promote open and honest communication between the industry experts and allow them to get the word out, to get the message across, and to give you a sounding board to make sure that if you found something you thought might not be real or sounded too good to be true, you knew you had a collection of people you could ask and probably get enough data points to either validate or invalidate the claim. So helped out a little bit there, and still continued with the SME activities. Came to the realization through that we really needed a lot of standards. We couldn't take a program from a customer, say that we're going to manufacture and it's going to come out as a quality product, because we didn't really have any standards to say that it was being manufactured to. We got a couple of groups. Fortunately, the DDM Tech group at that time had Brent Stucker, who was able to kind of push forward and identify the committee, or the SDO, Standards Development Organizations, so that we could find one to kind of make a home. And even with Mary Kinsella's help, we weren't able to get NIST to take that lead, but we were able to get their awareness, or continued awareness, because they were aware of it before, but get their involvement, and started up the F42. This was 2007 was the letter, 2008 was the beginning of the meetings, in 2009 we actually got it formed and moving forward. So we really got the opportunity to start digging into standards. Well, we're talking better part of over a decade ago.
And I think that might have been when I first may have met you, because I think one of the early meetings of that was out at Loughborough.
Yes.
And that was my first experience in an ASTM meeting. So I was there in person at the beginning.
Yeah. No, that's true, because you're right. Loughborough was the connection. It was amazing, because we've got all these technologies that are out here, and we have this amazing tool called the internet, which allowed, through like the RPML or any of these other different things, it allowed connectivity internationally, and everybody kind of acknowledged it. And the group at Loughborough has always been a very advanced group. A lot of great things have come out of there for a long time. So yeah, they saw that this was a need, and they said, yeah, we want to help support, please. And that allowed us to get the intercontinental, the global aspect, if you will, to the standards development, which allowed us the opportunity to connect, which was always good. But it also brought about the connectivity to ISO group. So that started making the standards activity become not only international, but ISO acknowledged, recognized, and supported. So now you've got the this collective global activity going on those, and we've seen a lot of standards come out of those. We still have the challenges because not everybody doing things was following the now ISO 529 standards, or sorry, ISO 261. 529 is the terminology one where a lot of them are named. But we still have a lot of people that spent extensive amounts of money to develop their own standards because they wanted to make additive manufacturing a tool that they could put into their products. So we still have a lot of customer-driven specifications that we have to follow. We are starting to see some of those reference the ISO ASTM standards, which is really cool because that means the migration's coming there. And I've always been concerned about how soon before one of my guys applies the wrong standard to a product, and now we've either got documentation that doesn't match, or we've got an audit issue, or anyways, it's just one of those concerns that always goes on. You want to make good product. You want to make it right the first time, and see what you can do to make the customer happy so they get viability for the next application.
And how have you seen the customers' questions change, or even their approach to working with you guys change over the time that you first got additive equipment, and now a number of years later, much fully more advanced in terms of what the options are, and even finishing? Have there been significant changes in how customers approach you?
Awareness and understanding is probably the biggest part, which is actually beneficial for a lot of it. Not all of that's totally accurate, but being able to discuss with them and say, yes, we can make your product, we can match these things, and now we're talking about, well, what sort of destructive test properties or non-destructive properties do you need validated, or how do we have to do the digital product confirmation? How do we go through and make sure that the digital product definition is flowing all the way from the original supplied data set to the final delivered product, and all the steps that go into there are measured? And, we've had a lot of people that understand more so about the fact that when we talk about a specific material, it may not have the right properties. It may not be exactly that of a production grade materials. They now understand that if you build something in the upright orientation, or the Z direction versus the X or the Y, you're going to have different properties, and how that impacts when you're going across something that's compounded on the different axes. So that awareness is very helpful, and people realize that there are issues with it. There's still a lot of reserve and hesitancy as to how far you put these parts into end use. We do have a lot of parts that go into end use on transportation, on military type things, even small custom manufactured. But a lot of things are being applied in what I call a safe area. And when I say safe, I'm talking applying it to the manufacturing floor. Use the additive to help make larger volume parts, because now you can check it anytime you have question. Walk over and take a look and say, hey, wait a second, this is supposed to do this, and it's not controlling it right. You can pull it off the floor and replace it, and it's not a risk that it's out in the field. Now, not to say that there aren't a lot of pieces that are in the field, and those have gone through extensive testing and criteria, and those, every time you make them, you have to get your destructive test samples done, and there's additional expenses with it. It's nice to see a lot of the standards activities moving towards mass validation or qualification of systems, to where you could potentially see the day where you don't need to destroy a piece off of every build. You don't necessarily have to do 100% testing of every layer, that maybe we can get the cost and the speed to pick up because of the fact that we have enough process control. But we're still learning about it. We're still getting more definition of exactly what the details are, whether it's moisture issues, whether it's energy density, or any sort of scan patterns, any sort of traceable mediums that you're going through. So it's exciting. There's a lot that's coming around. There's a lot of very intelligent people that are doing some amazing work, and that is really one of the exciting things about the industry is, that anytime you go to a venue, you're dealing with a lot of very great, intelligent, and straightforward people. Heck, it took us probably about 5 minutes or so of talking to realize, hey, I like this guy.
Right. Yep.
And this was a decade ago or so.
Right.
And we still get to help each other, but we're still fighting the same battles.
Yeah.
I had one application where a customer called me up, and they don't actually do the writing of their standards and things, but they said, hey, what's this FFF? And I said, okay, no, that's the genericized term that some people are using for what was typically referred to as FDM, or extrusion, based according to the ISO 52900 standard. But it's interesting to see that people are using some of these different terms in their own internal standards for the purposes of being able to allow more than just one technology. So that's comforting, because that means we're getting to a higher level of maturation where we're going to see that expansion of applications continue to evolve and get into more areas that before may have been just too scary to go to. So maybe we're getting to the point where we can actually start to see enough economies of scale start hitting the material supplies and equipment to bring those into a little bit more, I don't want to say reasonable. I do want to say reasonable, actually. More respectable levels, so that they can compete with more of the production technologies. So,
right.
Or not to say it's going to ever meet or replace injection molding or things like that. These are all just tools in a toolbox.
From operating your kind of facility and company, imagine with some of the increases in awareness of the standards and testing available, you have to think differently about the types of either printers or even kind of ancillary equipment that you have to bring in for material testing, or the processes you do for recording data. So that's probably changed quite a bit over the last number of years.
Well, the recording of data has, the traveler's control plans, the way that we process jobs and things has changed a lot, dramatically. And we've even seen a lot of places out there, we've seen the level of quality or awareness of quality continue to increase. We've continued to push it internally, but it's nice to see it as something where you don't have a bunch of people that just pull whatever comes off the machine and there you go, that's what you get. They realize that we're trying to make continuous good product. But yeah, the ability to improve the quality and to get the material testing, to get the process conformance and validation in there, we've had to very strategically determine what are the processes we want to bring internally to manage and control the processes, and which are the ones that we're going to utilize external labs for. And it has to do with how much effort are we putting into that, and what does it take for an ongoing cost? Because if we're going to bring in something that's basically going to be validated as well, production-ready products, we need to make sure that all of our equipment follows all the calibration, all the test requirements, because we're not making new equipment to validate what's there. We're using a lot of the current standards and the current equipment to make sure that what we're producing is in conformance. But all of that still takes calibration, and a lot of those things can be very demanding. A lot of material work going into it, and a lot of cost to sustain that. Whereas sometimes it's easier just to use specific designated labs and slowly grow, and as you need, you bring on a technology or a process and add that in as demand develops. So again, we're not trying to invent something that's not there. We're trying to see what we can do to use the products that are available and use them effectively and efficiently. So
sure. And this year certainly has been unique for a variety of ways. Have you seen changes due to the pandemic, or any work that you guys have been doing in the space related to your customers? Has it been a big impact on the business that you guys have been doing?
Well, I mean, I got to say, a lot of what we did in the very beginning, right as all the pandemic was starting to, should we say, get into gear or really kick into impacting everybody, we had a lot of contracts that required us to continue production. So we had a minimal staff that we were trying to be very protective with and put a lot of things in place. But we were watching and trying to help a lot of the medical related applications and companies and customers of ours as well with what limited staff we had, and make sure that we were trying to take care of improving the processes that we went through, all the different steps. I would say I think we saw that there was a little bit more awareness towards the quality of pieces that were being delivered. And I don't know if this was maybe changes in the amount of workforce that was there, or maybe the number of parts that were arriving at their facilities, but it didn't put extensive demand to raising these quality of the product that was produced, but we did go to the point of finding a number of different ways to advance what we were doing. We were able to focus on some of the key areas. So that standpoint, it was good. We're making a lot of different products. It's nice to see how many people were able to jump in and help with the frontline personal protective equipment type scenarios, not only in the U.S. here, but overseas as well, and see a lot of that collective activity going to try and evaluate designs, give improvements, give areas to be able to say, wait, you want to remove these features and make it cleanable, able to be sanitized, and able to be used for more than just a single point use. Seeing some of the different things that were created or are still being created to help people on the front line. It was really an opportunity to see additive manufacturing get, or 3D printing as a lot of them called it, and it's still commonly called that way. It was an ability for people to see what could be done with the technology and look at all the different ways to apply it. I really wish that the governing agencies or the governing bodies could have reacted as fast as the additive members did, because it was kind of almost a restraining point when you see that a lot of people weren't able to take and get these products into the first line, the frontliners. It was great to see even ASTM, and I think they still have it that way, put on all of their medical equipment standards, or some degree of their medical equipment standards was made available for open use for the public, so that people could go through and try and learn how to make product that's going to meet as many of the requirements as the medical facilities needed. Again, some of it was strictly people producing PPE for places like firefighters or police or nursing homes. A lot of these different areas, which were also first liners, not necessarily the hospital itself. So, but a great opportunity for the technology to shine, get some awareness, and again, we also learned that there were some things that we have to be careful of how we approach it, and make sure that we're being prudent about, is this really the best approach, or can we apply these technologies somewhere else and make a bigger impact? So,
right, and at the time, I think you were in one of those unenviable shoes, not with Met-l-flo, but with AMUG, because right at that same time, we were finding out about all the pandemic, just getting into it, and you're the president, and you have to make the call of, are we going forward with the event? Are we not going forward? And I'm guessing not something you anticipated when you put your name in the hat to be the president of the board for the show that year.
Yeah, you got that one right. I was asked to go as vice chair a number of years ago, so I'd spoken with my ASTM colleagues and said, hey, who would be able to take over the chair position if I was to leave, and managed to get a great guy, John Slotwinski, in there. And great, okay, then I could step away from that to work with AMUG. Did not have great expectations that I was going to be president, and while I don't mind it, and I'm looking forward to trying to do my best with it, I certainly never expected to have to try and manage should we postpone the event, and the thoughts and considerations at that point were, we didn't know what to do. We didn't have a book to follow. It was literally trying to guess back and forth and see what were the issues and what is the best for managing the user's interests and managing their the group as it is. So yeah, we had an enormous amount of phone calls and conversations trying to go through and look at every different possible scenario and situation, and how we could try and manage it. And eventually it came down to it, and sure enough, we were on the board call doing the vote right as the president was shutting down air travel. So great, we didn't have anybody to lead the way to show us, but we went through, and I think we made the right decision. Last thing anybody wanted to see was somebody getting injured or ill because of an event. So it still makes for a lot of changes. It's proving to open up a virtual world. We're starting to see that there's a lot that can be done with engaging people on the internet. When I say a lot, that doesn't mean that all of it's good. Some of it is just noise. So yeah, it's how do you go through and put together something that sustains the AMUG quality level that it's been working to brand itself since day one. And how do we get that to the point where it transcends into an electronic collection? And that's a challenge. I mean, there's a lot to be done with that. I think the team did an amazing job when it came to the virtual Dino Awards for 2020.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I watched those a few weeks ago, and those were great. I really liked how that all came together.
Yeah, it was no small task, and to be done by a bunch of volunteers, it shows their commitment. It shows their intent to make sure that it's top quality, which is good. Even the first one. So, but there's a lot to learn. It's a new world. We're finding different ways to do things, different ways from make an end product, different ways from communicating, different ways from being safe. So,
right, and the interesting thing about AMUG is it's not just U.S. So you're dealing with a global audience, global travelers coming to one location, all with different requirements, restrictions, and then you throw in the companies who I think at the time too were putting in their own rules of we're not going to do travel, or no, everyone's work from home, and you have so many different experiences and levels of things going on that it was trying to build the bridge as you walk over it almost.
Yeah, that's probably a good example of a good analogy. Sorry, you build a bridge as you walk over it. Which I guess Additive has done that, but you're right. The number of countries that come to AMUG every year it's all over. It's every region of the world, and it's amazing to see all those people. It's great to see them because a lot of them are friends. But yeah, with the fact that we had no idea where things were going to be, what the hot spots were going to be, what where the next epicenter of outbreak was going to be, yeah, we had no way to be able to tell, and there was discussion at that point of a lot of people's travel being limited. Since then, I think everybody's gone to just shutting it down. But yeah, that was one of those that I mean, it's great to have that global presence, that people from all over the world can come together and connect and collaborate and work to build better technology. But yeah, it brings up a whole nother level of dynamics. When you're looking at where do you bring these people? How do you take care of them? How do you manage all these different factors? So it was not fun to see what the impact of a pandemic does to it. But I got to give credit to the team and the board and all those who've been doing it for years, because their foresight of putting in things like the zombie apocalypse clause and all these other items which protects the future of the group is amazing. So that helps a lot. And then you look at something like ASTM putting together their whole activity, which was going to be right before the AMUG kicked off. They put it together and did it online. Another excellent opportunity there, and a great way, again, still keeping people connected, but still a little different. So I myself, I'll say I'm looking forward to being able to safely get everybody back together and do a bunch of saying hello and being being in the same space with people. I guess I really don't know how that's going to play out, whether there's going to be a little bit of distance at that point, or whether we're going to have hopefully a cure or something, at least a vaccine for this level. So, but yeah, these are just some of the challenges that nobody expects it, but we get to deal with on a as they come basis. So.
Yeah, has the past few months, either with Met-l-flo or with AMUG or anything else that you're doing, kind of changed the way that you've thought about things, or are you learning to do anything differently compared to what you did before?
I mean, we're definitely trying to be safer. We're trying to be more proactive. We're trying to be more we're trying to be more, I don't want to say transparent, but more focused on being able to help people effectively take these technologies into manufacturing. So when I say that, we're really trying to safely guide people on how to use additive manufacturing in their applications. That could be for things like test and reliability. It could be for manufacturing aids, ergonomics, personal protective equipment, equipment to manufacture personal protective equipment. A lot of these different ways, because this is one of those areas I think we're going to see a whole new collection of products that start to launch for unique, specific ideas and applications. I mean, when you think about it, the last what, 3 months? I don't even know how long it's been now. 4 months. Have had a lot of people staying at home, which gives some time to contemplate and think of things. You're not stuck on the road driving. So whether it be ways to clean the air, whether it be ways to recycle the materials, I think there's a lot of creativity out there that now has seen what 3D printing or additive manufacturing can do to personal protective equipment. And we're at the point where people are going to say, wait a second, I could use that to do this. And hopefully we'll find a collection more solutions that I think we're going to see micro markets up here where people can actually reach those because of the internet. But now they've got a means to be able to manufacture product and do more validation on the micro scale before they have to get into hard tooling. So it really could be interesting from the stance of how does this requirement of shelter in place and everything like that, what are the outcomes going to be, and how is it going to help us move to a greater proliferation of additive manufacturing in our daily lives. So that's one of those that's kind of it's got a huge potential. It's got a huge risk. I'm hoping that the standards have developed far enough that we can apply them more effectively to a lot of these new applications, and we can safely make products through additive manufacturing that brings a whole new supply chain issue or supply chain capability, brings a whole new collection of aids to help make life better.
Sure. All right, Carl, well, appreciate the time. I think if we want to point people to your website, it's metalflow.com, but is there anything else that you want to talk about or highlight for news coming up for you guys or AMUG that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, AMUG is doing a lot to get ready for next year, and we've got an amazing group of committees So while we're always looking for more volunteers, we're still looking at ways to engage them and to take advantage of them. So that's a work in progress. But I love the way that the group is moving forward and how capable they are to be able to build a structure that's scalable. As for Met-l-flo, we are actively improving our quality standards, our engagement approaches, our opportunities. We're not an online broker. We're not trying to see what we can do to make it so people can point click. Yeah, we have an online pricing, but a lot of what we're trying to do is make it so that we can engage in discussion and help guide people to a technology that's going to be successful for their application. Doesn't matter if that's I mean, we do a lot of plastics ones. We do a lot of secondary technologies. We've got a lot of defense stuff that literally forced a number of people to come here daily through this whole pandemic, or still, because of the fact that we're producing these low volume castings for helping our warfighters. How can we go through and take what's been effectively done for a lot of these advanced manufacturing applications and apply them for a more diverse load? We're working on trying to find ways to help facilitate that engagement. And a lot of it comes from just starting a conversation, much like you and I have done over the years. Hey, what do you think of this? And next thing you're like, oh wow, yeah, something like that could do it. So, yeah, so Met-l-flo is always looking to grow. We're always looking to try and bring on the right team and try and build out the expertise that we have. And we're fortunate to have places like Northern Illinois University right nearby, a collection of other colleges and academies and things, and we're getting some great minds, some great people with some great ideas that really love to pick up what we can do with the technology, and I can't wait to show more of them how to take it, how to apply it, and so personally, that's one of my things: is how can I help expand the potential application effectively, and some of these bright kids are just amazing. I love doing it with them. But obviously, AMUG. How can we make sure that we get a strong, fluid means of content and information out there? And I mean, I still participate with the SME and Rapid, and trying to help make sure that continues, because again, it's another excellent venue for being able to get information out there and keep people educated properly, so that they can be successful. And collectively, all boats rise in a high tide. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Carl, and we'll talk soon.